people's time flies, even you, and anybody.
Okay, it's a lot of fun. I should be able to come and do both.
Well, you run off down you be there. You were supposed to be fishing the cast, and you'd be down there casting fish.
No, I was not.
I was just a little bit jealous that I couldn't get.
I was not. I was not. All right, AJ, any other announcements, fishing reports? As I said in my email, too hot to fish, too hot to golf. Hope the AC is working at home. It's not quite what the country song says, but it's close. All right.
I ain't got nothing to report.
What?
I don't have any to report.
Yeah.
You're crippled.
Aaron just caught 30 or 40 species up in Arkansas, so I know he was fishing.
Wow. You know, the goal was for the for an Ozark bass. That was the sole. Well, actually, I had to go up there. Long story short, I ended up getting a used car from Keith Reeves, who's one of the big guides.
Yeah.
His aunt was selling the car, so
nice.
I was not able to fish with Keith because he was already booked. And then he hooked me up with Dwayne, and the sole goal was an Ozark bass. So for the Gulf Coast Council FFI Challenge, and we caught that in the Neosho pretty early. And then we just started going after species. But what I will say is I just cannot get a red horse. I made a play. I know I just was not able. And the coolest fish of all, which would have been the coolest thing, was something they call a log perch. It's just Google it. It was pretty. I didn't know what it was until after we were done that day, and we saw two. Well, Dwayne saw two, and one spooked right away, and then the other one, I made 3 good passes with a nymph, and it didn't move off of its perch.
So he was able to get you on all those smaller species as well. He knew where all those were.
Yeah, and we didn't have any luck with a grass carp. We tried for that, so it wasn't a full success, but yeah, it was.
That's pretty.
It was. It was good.
Maybe not successful to him, but
Yeah.
us, yeah.
Grass carp are really tough. They're filter feeders kind of. They eat grass and algae, and if you can bring one to hand, especially on the fly, they're a tough species. I've only hooked one. My fishing buddy Chase was with me, and he went to net it and missed, and then he jetted and popped my little 5X tippet I had on at the time. Then
there is
one right after on an 8-weight.
On my way home, I did stop at the Arkansas River Dam in I can't remember the town, but I actually caught a really big size spotted gar, which I'd already caught this year. And the goal was a striped bass, a hybrid striper. But all I caught was a white bass and another spotted gar. But that is a spot that has hybrid stripers. Yeah. So just so you know that I didn't know about that spot.
Was that at the Corps of Engineers in Conway?
No, the town started with I thought it started with an N. It's across the Arkansas River, a couple hours south of Harrison.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so I spent 3 hours there, 2 before they started generating, and they started generating. There was this just monstrosity blue catfish that came up the side wall along this concrete wall where I was fishing, just slurping up the shad right up the wall. It had to have been 60 pounds. This thing was like a log. Of course, he didn't even see my little streamer fly, but yeah, that was, just to see that fish was pretty incredible. Cool. And then it was a big alligator gar that surfaced at some point. Yeah, it was an interesting place.
Good deal. All right, AJ, are you ready? Ready to roll?
I was born ready, Bill.
All right.
First,
Well,
I want to
what?
compliment that shirt you're wearing tonight.
Yeah. This shirt was given to me by a real Winston guy. This RL Winston shirt. AJ is like friends with the Winston dealers and sells a lot of Winston rods and all that. So he knows I like the green stick. I was going to be buried with one of them, my favorite one, but then I thought that'd be a shame to bury a Winston in the ground. I might leave it to somebody.
Waste of a good shirt.
Yeah, I know, or a good rod. I was talking about. It's
Rod,
my,
oh,
yeah, my 8 foot 4 weight. AJ, for those of you that haven't met him, he's out of New Orleans, of course. He is president of the New Orleans Fly Fishers and president of the Gulf Coast Council of FFI, and is the main force behind the Gulf Coast Classic down in Gulf Shores every May. If you haven't done that, that is a phenomenal fly fishing festival. I mean, it's I've been to a few in Texas, and it's by far, I haven't been all over Nashville like you guys have, but it's by far the best I've ever gone to. So, and AJ is a good friend. He taught Jim and I how to catch Rios a few years ago, and we've caught 5 or 6 since then, but not that many. He's never let us win the Rio rodeo though. So
Come on.
and I really, AJ, I don't know what you're going to talk about tonight. So other than Rios, I know you're gonna talk about Rios. Catch mentioned that.
I sure am.
But whatever you want, just I think maybe make sure I am recording. There we go, recording in progress. So it's all, you're up here at about 72 inches in our room, so we can see.
Oh, wow. On the big screen.
On the big
First,
screen.
thanks for the invite to have the opportunity to come over and share some time with you guys and talk a little bit about fishing for Rios in New Orleans. Just a little bit of you'll see, I'm going to pull up a little PowerPoint in a minute, but when we get to the end, any questions that you have, I'm more than happy to share with you. But before we go to the, I know Aaron was saying a bit ago that I sent him some flies, but I will show you real quick. This is the one that I've always had the best luck on with Rio Grande Cichlids, and it's the Bully's bluegill chartreuse with the red tail and the black legs. I've caught them on the white version. I've caught them on the tan version. I was actually thinking about tying one in a pink version after I just tied some for Aaron to see if they possibly would like that. But that chartreuse one is really good. So the Rio Grande Cichlid is actually a native to southern Texas. I think about the furthest north they've found them is up into the Austin area. I know what's his name, Chris Johnson from Living Waters Fly Shop. They fish them up around that Round Rock area, but it gets a little bit too cold for them during the winter, much further north than that. But they're in invasives here in Louisiana. The furthest north I've heard of them being caught here. Some of them have been showing up in the Baton Rouge area and some of the parks, some of the recreation department parks, but not a whole lot. But they're great species on the fly. When I first got involved about 15 years ago with the New Orleans Fly Fishers Club, I'm at a meeting. They're talking about Rio Grande. So what are you talking about? Rio Grande Cichlids? Yeah, So I'm looking at, and I had kept aquarium fish for a while, and I look it up. I said, "Oh, that's a Texas blue." Yeah, it's a Texas blue. They sold them in the aquarium trade, but got away from it because of all the fish and wildlife things they go on with them. But they're a great fish on the fly. They'll eat little nymphs. My personal best I caught on this type of fly, it was a little bit over 12 inches. But when I first got involved with the New Orleans Fly Fishers Club, I asked the question, well, what do you catch them on? Well, it's got to be like a little nymph. It's got to be white or something like that. I said, will they eat a popper? Because I love the fish poppers. Nope. No way. Okay. So I kind of went out to City Park in New Orleans, and it was actually early in November, and I went out. I was on a good that last late good big bluegill bite, and I was throwing a white round denny, and man, something hit it, and like pull up. I said, man, what is this? Really? It was a Rio. So the first one I caught was on a popper. Of course, I had to tell all those guys that yes, you can catch them on poppers. But yeah, it's a fun species to catch. You can you can blind cast and catch them, but I always sight fish them. I've caught one fishing for other things and that I didn't see them. I've caught a few like that, but you want to sight fish them, and I mean they're very territorial fish when they're spawning in this type of weather, although it kills us because it's so hot and humid, it's the Rios love it. They love warm weather. Um, and over the years fishing for them, you'll see them and they'll be maybe 3 to 5 feet off the bank in anywhere from a foot to 2 feet of water. And when they're spawning, the males get this big hump on their head. It's called a neutral hump. Uh, and it's I guess it's part of the courting process with the female. But you can watch them, and when there are other smaller males around, they look like a bighorn sheep. They'll butt heads, and they chase one another off and they kind of fight like that. But it's fun to see. But if you walk up and they're guarding a bed, they'll like, most fish will kind of jet off when they see you on the bank. They'll kind of turn and look at you and say, "What do you want?" It's a lot of fun. But they're great on the fly. They readily take a fly. They have these little crusher teeth in their mouth. Um, and they'll chomp on it pretty good and pull pretty good for a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and start up a PowerPoint
You should
presentation.
be able to share your screen, Jim.
I am. Let me get this all squared away real quick. There we go. All right. So let me go back. So let's talk a little bit about the Rio Grande Cichlid. You can see this is a male that my buddy Sean Gilthorpe from the New Orleans Club actually uh, put this presentation together. He and I do it every year. But they're an aquatic alien down in our area. Like I said, they're not native to this area. They're native to South Texas and northern Mexico. Uh, cool looking fish. When they're really lit up, those little white spots you see all over them, they kind of turn a turquoise blue color. How did I get to that? I didn't want me to be there. Hmm. All right, we're back. Um, but pretty cool fish. It's weird. I know some folks that have caught them in New Orleans and they take them home to to dine on them. And they said it's tasty. It's a lot like a bluegill or something like that. They're a little tougher to clean because they have like a double backbone in them. Uh, but I'm sure Bill and Jim can tell you it's a very muscular fish for its size. It's very strong.
No,
So like I said, native to the U.S., Southwest Texas and Mexico. They're invasive species in Arizona, Florida, Illinois. I didn't know they were in Illinois. That's way north. Louisiana, Nevada, um, Nebraska, Ohio, Puerto Rico, and Eastern Texas. It's funny. They're highly tolerant of salinity levels up to 8 points per thousand. I've actually caught them in Lake Pontchartrain too. like by the New Orleans Yacht Harbor Basin. I've caught a number of them there. Decent size. About the lowest they can survive is the water temperature down to about 57.5 degrees. Much cooler than that, it kills them off. Now, to show you a little bit about how they've been able to adapt, what they will do in the New Orleans area, they will they'll go into the culverts when it gets real cold, and they'll hang out in there because the water in the big drainage culverts um, stays a little bit warmer. A few years last year in February, we had that freeze that came through and it killed a bunch. And I was worried about this coming year's Rio rodeo about the availability of fish, but they have really bounced back. I've caught more big Rios this year than I've ever caught in a year. 2 weeks ago, I caught one that was 11 3/4 inches. Not my personal best. My personal best was a shade over 12, but my buddy Chase Smith and I were fishing in City Park. I caught that one, and he caught one that was a shade under 11 right after me. But City Park has held the big Rios this year. I've caught a bunch of big Rios, 9 inches and up. Um, Bill's fished in the Rio Rodeo before, and he can tell you a 9-inch fish has a really good chance of winning it. So how can you catch them? The season runs from spring through fall when it starts to warm up in the spring. Usually about the earliest I've caught them in the spring is early April, which I did this year. And then I've caught them as late as mid-November when we hadn't had a really cold blast come through. Like I said, you can blind cast for them, but your best bet is going to be to sight cast them. There's a couple of canals in the New Orleans area I've gone to just when I'm kicking around to have a good time with them and stuff like that, where there will be literally hundreds of juveniles. I'm talking, 2.5 to 4 inches long just in one spot, and it's like every cast you can catch them. So it's just a matter of seeing them there. What's the best type of tackle? Well, for me, the most fun is fishing them on a 3-weight. The reel doesn't matter. They're not going to go blazing down. You don't need just something that holds your line for your 3-weight. I've caught them on as light as a 1-weight, some smaller ones. But 3-weight, 4-weight's ideal size. A floating wait for it fly line. Fly small nymphs, the Bully's bluegill. I talked about that. It's one of my favorites. There's a fly that I tie called the brim wiggler. I've caught them on that as well. Chase and I have been fishing for carp in the West Esplanade Canal. Caught them on carp nuggets and some carp flies and stuff like that. It just depends on what kind of mood they're in. Where can you find them? I wonder if I can hide that bar at the bottom of the screen. Let's see.
We don't see it, AJ.
You don't see it? Okay, I'm just seeing it. Okay. But where can you catch them? The local parks have them. They're prolific in City Park, along the lakefront New Orleans. I've caught some big ones in Lafayette Park, but the problem in Lafayette Park is the side walls of the lakes and the canals, they go down 4 feet and you don't see them. So you can kind of blind cast and move along. You might catch them, you might not. Your best bet, like I said earlier, is to sight cast them. They're all over in the drainage canals in East Jefferson. Bayou St. John in New Orleans holds a bunch of them. It's just a matter of being able to get to them and not get caught up in the trees. A lot of the technique is almost kind of like jigging. You'll see them there. If they're close enough and your rod's long enough, you can just kind of jig it up and down. They like to hit flies on the drop. if they're not eating a popper. But my big one that I caught a couple of weeks ago, I was casting a popper for bluegills in City Park, and I saw him cruising along, and he had that attitude that he was looking to eat something. I threw it out there, and he kind of turned, and I just kind of jiggled the tip of my rod a little bit, and it kind of shimmied me, and he came up and he whacked it. So that's what's fun. You can actually see them and throw to them. Any questions so far about like equipment and stuff like that?
When you talk about catching them at the lakefront, are you outside actually in the lake or lakefront, or are you back from that?
In some of the canals right off the lake and stuff like that. The New Orleans Yacht Harbor, they get up in there, and wherever you can access that, they're around all the docks and everything. And I've sight fished them in there. I find the ones that are in the brackish water. I've never caught any what I would consider really big ones. About the biggest I've ever caught in the brackish water has been about, probably 6 inches or so.
When you say your site, when you're looking for them, what are you looking for fins or just moving water? What
No,
exactly?
you can actually, you want some fairly clear water. That's not really moving. Like the ponds in City Park, the water really doesn't move much in there. You just walk the shoreline and you look for them, you'll see them there. It's funny. There was a spawn about 2 months ago, and sometimes that water's kind of murky. I see this swirl, and I kind of got to where I could see a little bit. And there were three big males, and they were guarding a ball of fry, Rio fry. So when the females lay the eggs and they leave, I guess they go out to a girls' weekend or something like that. But the males guard the nest, and then they guard the fry until they're big enough to kind of protect themselves. But what they'll do is if there's a threat or danger, they will actually take the fry in their mouth, like a lot of cichlids will do that, called mouth brooders. But they would hook. I said, look at this. So I just I had a fly and I threw and I drug it past them, and all these three males, they gathered as many of these little fry up in their mouth as they could. Then I backed away and I watched, and after they figured the danger was gone, they just kind of spit them back out, and all the fry were in a little ball. Um, so it's pretty cool.
What size hook do you use?
I've caught them on as big as a 10. Actually, the one I caught on a carp nugget was on a size 6 carp nugget, a size 6 jig hook. But I like a 12 or a 14. The mouths are small. You can see in the picture that fish, his mouth is pretty small. And just like, a little curved nymph hook. The hook I really, really like is one made by BWO, Blue Wing Olive, and I think it's a BWO maybe a 390, because it's a offset nymph hook. It goes aside, so when they chomp it, it turns and locks in on them pretty quick.
Yeah, size 14 Rio Bandito works also.
Yes, and they'll eat the Rio getter fly too. The one with the little dumbbell eyes on it. All right.
Hey, AJ, do you find them really selective occasionally? Because I know I've caught them on everything from a hare's ear to a Polly Rossboro hare's ear to a Rio to your chartreuse to pink. Do you find them selective sometimes?
Well, sometimes they can be finicky, but there's other times I just when I've seen them where they're active and they're moving around a lot, I'll change flies to see if they'll eat it. And it's like everything you throw in the water, they're going to eat.
Okay.
and you just, it just, for the most part, needs to be small. I have a little bait fish pattern I use called the flash fry, and it's just um, a bunch of flashabou and a little one of those little minnow head things, and so it's about an inch long, and they'll eat that too. Probably the most consistently they eat light colored flies. They like the chartreuse, they like the white, they'll eat the tans, you know. I don't know why that is, because you know, I've thrown little buggy looking black things that look like something that's supposed to be swimming in the water, and they won't have anything to do with it, but they like the lighter color flies. Maybe it's easier for them to see. You can see in this picture, this is a big male. Um, he's in full spawning attire there. He's got that big hump on his head. That hump's about the size of a golf ball. And what's crazy is once they spawn, that hump will kind of shrink back down. So the best times to catch them, spring to fall, they can be caught from mid-March to late October. Peak season is summer, high temperatures, they're more active, and they're not as sensitive to lower oxygen levels as native fishes are.
AJ, the fly you showed us a moment ago that you had in chartreuse, what was the name of it again?
That is a Bully's bluegill, the Rosenbohm variant. The way that I tie it a little different, Bill knows this. I tie a red thread head, no matter what color it is, and I epoxy that head so it's nice and shiny.
I've got a video on it, Frank,
Good.
on my YouTube, and it's the same as just what he showed, except that mine is chartreuse legs.
Yeah.
Black leg.
Okay.
It's the same.
And you can tie it in a variety of different legs and stuff like that. I've tied it with black and white legs on it. I just like the chartreuse with the black. I think the contrast is a little bit better.
There's a killer on brim.
Oh, yes, indeed. So the thing with Rio is, you know, like when it's real hot right now, you know, your brim and your bass and all first thing in the morning, late in the evening though, but they go deep and kind of get lethargic in the heat of the day. Not the Rios, they're out all day long. They've saved many a day trip to City Park for me when I just had an hour or two to fish and go out there and they're just all fired up and ready to go.
AJ, the city park ponds, you know, there's a bazillion of them. Any particular ones you favor?
My favorite spot overall is the Big Lake, which is close to the museum. There's a ton of shoreline. It's fairly shallow all around. You can see them. You can sight cast them. There's some nice big fish in there. By the City Park Casino building, that's Bayou Metairie behind there. I've seen them in there as well, especially up toward the end where the waterfall feature is. It's pretty shallow in there. You can see them there, and I've caught them in there over the years too. But this looks like it's going to turn out to be a banner year for a lot of fish and big fish. But they're in the drainage canals out in Jefferson Parish. They are all over the place in them right now. There's one canal that over the years has consistently been good, and it's the one we called it the home ditch at No Wake Outfitters because it was around the corner from the store. But it's next to the Jesuit High School baseball field, High Bank. Man, they were loading there, but I don't know what's going on this year. I have not seen fish one in it at all.
Still seeing fish in it?
I hadn't seen any in there this year. I hadn't seen any fish in there this year. Usually I see a few carp. There was always some little ditch pickle bass in there, tons of green sunfish in there, bluegills, but I don't know. Maybe somebody dumped something into it and it's kept them away, but
Yeah, that's the one year Jim and I saw at one of the culverts, this fluorescent green stuff.
Mhm.
I fell in it head first, so maybe that's what's wrong with me.
Fluorescent green stuff. So
Yeah, it's probably antifreeze floating down the canal.
It might have been. We caught fish though.
Yeah, yeah. So they're actually, and I didn't find this out till maybe 2 years ago, and Bill may have been the person who brought it up to me. But originally, all we ever saw were the Rio Grande cichlids. There's another species of cichlid called the lowland cichlid. Looks a little bit different in coloration. Body shape is kind of the same. I've never caught one of those with the big hump on its head. Um, but it's pretty cool looking. It's the top half of the fish is a little bit lighter in color, has some dark barring toward the tail and a dark spot, but their bellies are like can be almost solid black. Bill, you want to comment on that at all?
And to me, the biggest difference that I key on, because it's hard to tell the difference, is the spots are much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
The only ones we count as lowland are those where the spots are, 2 or 3 times the size of the spots on the Rio. When you look at them side by side, it's obvious that the spots on the lowland are, 2 or 3 times as big as the ones on the Rios, and not as many spots. Some of the
Right, I was
Rios,
going to say the density of the spots aren't as many.
yeah. But I take pictures of every Rio I catch because, unless it's just obvious, it's not. Because you get back and look at it and say, oh man, look, he's got the bars, and then you can kind of do the after action review on it. And
And they will hybridize too.
yeah.
They crossbreed.
Yeah.
Is there a state record?
Mhm.
They've never kept it. We pushed it a number of years ago. This coming year's Rio Grand Rumble is going to be the 17th time that we've done it. 17 times in 18 years. We didn't do it the COVID year, 2021, but we pushed probably I don't know 8, 9 years ago, and the Louisiana Sports Writers Association keeps all the fishing record stuff, and we're not interested in that. Although it's listed as invasive, there's been some talk that Wildlife and Fisheries is going to take it off of the invasive list because they're so well entrenched. You'll never get rid of them, especially down here. Our climate is pretty temperate, as you guys know, if that ever come to New Orleans to fish for them, and you'll never kill them all off. It won't happen. So tactics and techniques, sight casting, as I said, is the most effective. You want to walk slow. You don't, just like with any fish, if they're not in the bed and you kind of come up on them quick, they'll kind of jet, and it might be a little while before they come back. Polarized sunglasses are a must to be able to see down to the water. If you're blind casting, you want to cast near the structure that you see. They like rocks and stuff like that. So if you have any riprap in the water, I know I was just out recreationally fishing a few years ago when I had my kayak in Bayou St. John, and by one of the bridges they crossed over, there was a big concrete like embankment, and they were just all over the place. And so what are they doing there? And they're going, and they had these little worms that were coming out of the concrete. And man, they were just eating up on them. But they love rocky structures. And like I said, they usually hold within 6 feet of the bank. Now, just a quick tip. We talked about techniques earlier. If you're gonna fish the canals, especially like the West Metairie Canal and the West Esplanade Canal and the canals in Metairie, they're high bank. So you kind of up on the bank. I usually suggest fish with a 5 weight because you're lifting these fish up, and a bigger fish can weigh over a pound. So you don't want to snap your 3 weight or your 4 weight. And a lot of times, you're standing back a little bit and you can't be right up next to the water most of the time if you're fishing these canal banks. So you're going to have to kind of lift him up over the edge of the bank. There's been a number of times I've been out when I'm fishing with the 3 or 4 weight, and I'll hook one and he gets up next to the bank, and I'm trying to get him up and out of the weeds and stuff like that, and he'll pop off because of that. Any questions about this tactics and techniques?
Question, what about the tippet strength?
I usually I usually don't use trout tippet on it. I usually will fish with probably straight 8 or 10 pound mono, just for reliability's sake. It's probably overkill. I think the biggest cichlid I've ever seen that somebody caught down here probably weighed a shade over a pound, maybe a pound and a quarter. But if you're lifting that dead weight up, they can put a pretty good bend in a 2 or 3 or 4 weight rod. Other questions?
AJ, you talk about them being invasive and that we can't ever get rid of them. Do they want these taken out? Do people take them home, kill them and eat them or?
Yeah, some people do take them home and eat them. I will tell you for a fact, I would never eat anything
Yes.
I took out of the West Esplanade Canal.
Okay. Fair enough.
I would not eat them. I would
So,
not eat them at all. But yes, wildlife and fisheries want you to kill them.
okay.
But I can tell you, all the ones that I catch, other than when I catch them during the Rio rodeo, they wiggle out my hands and somehow get back in the water.
Oh, they do.
So-
Somehow.
AJ, you were referring to the cold temperatures and them getting in the culverts.
Mhm.
Chris Johnson did a presentation last year or a video about the Rio Cichlids in Brushy Creek and Round Rock.
Yeah.
He said that in the winter, when the colder temperatures, they went to spring heads. There was washed out spring heads coming to those streams. That's where they stayed because the water temperature was consistent.
I was about to say that. Yeah, what they do up there is they get by where those springs are coming up from the ground because the water temperature it's tempered enough to where it doesn't freeze them out. It's usually in that most of the springs they're coming up out of the ground about 65 degrees, 62 to 65 degrees. So they're going to be okay doing that. It's amazing how animals and fish adapt to their environment.
Very much so. There are no springs in New Orleans, though, that we know of.
No, nope, not at all. No, it's too mucky down here. We're on those old riverbeds.
There's green fluorescent springs coming out.
That's right. All right,
Yeah.
tackle selection. You can see we got a bunch of zebra midges in this box and some prince nymphs. I know Ketch won it twice. The Rio Grande Rumble using the prince nymph. He likes that. And pheasant tail nymphs are great. Rods 5'9" and 9 foot, 1 to 4 weight normally. Like I said, it's kind of changed over the last couple of years since we built this presentation. If you're fishing those high canal banks, in Metairie and Jefferson Parish, you want something with a little more backbone and a little more length. I would definitely go with a 9 foot 5 weight. Reels to match your rod, drag's not an issue. It's funny, when these fish first hit, they tear out like the devil. But usually within about 10 seconds, they just kind of give up the ghost. And then they're like dragging in a wet towel or something like that. But why the bigger ones, they'll fight you a little longer. But the what I call the everyday Rio, that's from 5 to 7 inches long. Usually just, oh, well, you got me, But flies, midges, soft tackles, beadhead nymphs, that's a good representation of what you might want to fish with them. Any questions about flies and stuff like that? That's Sean's fly box. Mine's full of bullies and wigglers and stuff like that. and some dry flies.
Squirmy worm. Will they hit a squirmy worm?
A squirmy worm? I think they would. Yes, I've never thrown a squirmy worm for them, but no reason for me to think they wouldn't. They eat regular worms like crazy. I know as Ketch would say, the commie tackle guys, they'll throw worms for them. There used to be a Rio Grande division in the New Orleans Big Bass Rodeo, who could bring the most in, and they'd have teams that would fish them, and that's all they threw at them. They threw earthworms at them.
AJ, when he's fishing those midges, like the super midges, is he using an indicator with us?
No, we pretty much always free line them.
Yeah.
I've never thrown anything with an indicator. Um, First of all, where you're throwing is so shallow.
Yeah.
Now if you're fishing some structure, some rocks, and it's a little deeper, that might work. But it's so shallow where you fish for them, I'd kind of be afraid of spooking them a little bit. All right, so where can they be caught? Now look, I'm not going to mark the map for you guys. I'm just going to give you the general area. You got to work for it a little bit. But City Park, Lafreniere Park, I mentioned those two already. Lake Pontchartrain, the West End area, West End is when I talked about the New Orleans Yacht Harbor. That's where that is. The Bonneville Boat Launch has a bunch of riprap along the canal there and stuff like that. But the drainage canals, West Napoleon, West Esplanade, West Metairie, those are all really good. The Vintage Canal in Kenner as well. And you can look these things up online. The morning of the Rio Rumble, if anybody is looking for spots, headquarters is going to be at Lafreniere Park. They'll have more posted on the website about that. And people are always willing to share tips on like where these canals are and stuff like that. Well, there's a Rio that's really lit up. You can see the kind of turquoise looking spots up on the front of the face. It's funny, the males are pretty dark, but when they're spawning, like their chest and their foreheads turn this grayish white color. If anybody is looking for me to mark a map for them or something, you can email me or text me, and I'll send you a couple spots to generally put you where you need to be. Fish areas, Bayou Metairie and City Park. That's the one that runs behind the Casino Park building. Bayou St. John, Big Lake, which is the area right next to the museum. Scout Island's a little tough. You can't get on Scout Island, but the area around there you can kind of get to. It's a little deeper, so you don't see them. You'd just be blind casting for them. In City Park, off limits areas are the sculpture garden and the golf course. They probably got 2-foot long Rios in the sculpture garden because all the fish go hide in there that are big. Nobody bothers them. There's Lafreniere Park, the lagoons and the ponds. There's a thing called Marsh Island. It's kind of a bird sanctuary. It's posted, no fishing allowed there, and they don't let you fish off the bridges for some reason. That's in Metairie, right off the interstate, easy to get to. That's where we're going to headquarter this year. So we talked about Lake Pontchartrain. You can see that's like one of the boat launch areas right there, Yacht Harbor. You can do that. The picture you see below it is the Bonneville boat launch. On the right side of that picture, that's the Bonneville Canal where it comes into the lake. So imagine if you're looking at this, Lake Pontchartrain is behind you. But there's a pier there, and there's you can kind of see there's tons of riprap along it. They love that kind of stuff. So there you go. the drainage canals, the fish canals in Metairie, West Esplanade, West Napoleon, Wilson, also the West Metairie Canal. But some cautions that go on it. Steep banks there, if you're a little unsure, I say bring a stick to walk with, or if you have a waiting staff, that even helps. You got to watch the cars are zipping by behind you. The nutria there, they're not going to bother you. Just kind of watch. You won't see a lot of alligators, but we see them from time to time. There's a couple of big ones in there, but just kind of have your eyes open all the time when you're there. But you'll see them. They'll be right up next to the banks. And it was funny. We talked a little bit earlier about chasing carp, and Chase Smith and I, we like to go chase our carp, but we actually were aggravated with the Rios because we were catching Rios when we didn't want to catch them when we were fishing for carp. So in conclusion, cichlids are an invasive species in Louisiana and other states. They most commonly carp between March and October. Sight casting is the most effective method. Ultralight tackle 1 to 3 weight is the best match, and smaller flies, size 10 and smaller, work best. All right.
Yeah,
So questions?
yeah. Are you picking up tilapia in this area where you get the cichlids?
Yes. Yes. They are there. I will tell you, tilapia are really tough on the fly. They're very skittish. I caught my first one during the Rio Rumble last year. On a bullies, there was a bunch of big Rios and I was targeting them. And this about 9-inch tilapia came hard charging across the canal and ate it. When I've tried to catch them, I haven't. I did catch a tilapia a couple of weeks ago on a white popper. I never would have thought I would have done that. But they're filter feeders. They eat grass and algae and stuff like that. This year for the Rio Grande Rumble, we're going to have a tilapia Calcutta. So I think the entry fee, you can go to the New Orleans Fly Fishers Club website and enter online. We'll be sending something out as we get closer. We're going to do a Calcutta. It'll be $5 a person that you can put in, and whoever brings in the longest tilapia wins. My fishing buddy Chase Smith, he brought one in last year. It was 13 inches. So that was a big one. And tilapia, I will tell you, they are fun on the fly. They're tough. They fight good. They fight all the way to the net. They don't give up like the Rios do.
Any hints for carp while you're fishing for Rios in the canal, AJ?
You just got to kind of see them and get the fly out in front of them. Just carp in general. Chris Williams's presentation on carp is probably the best thing I've ever seen, but just through personal experience, you want to try to sight fish them a little, like you said, Bill, a little bit of cloudy in the water's good because they won't spook as easily. Usually when it's rained like this, it's kind of stirred things up and you'll see them nosing along feeding. The ones that are cruising down the middle of the canal, like he's going to a social or something. The ones they call kloopers, they usually won't bite. I've only had one turn after a fly that I threw at him like that. But most you want them, nose down feeding in the bank, drop it 3 or 4 feet in front of them and just kind of drag it along slow. You don't want to move it fast on them.
You want it to be on the bottom?
I'm sorry?
Want your fly to be on the bottom?
Yeah, usually that's what I fish. I usually fish like a little nymph fly. I like something with a size 6 jig hook, and something buggy looking. It's got to be buggy looking. There's a fly that I designed a couple years ago. I call it the carp nugget. I got it in multiple colors. It's just got a dub body. When I started tying it, I started using, I just used bead chain eyes on it because I wanted to be kind of quiet when it lands. And the water you're fishing in is usually so shallow, it doesn't have to go flying deep to the bottom. You know, heavier fly is going to plunk down a lot harder. But yeah, just like medium bead chain eyes on a size 6 or a size 8 jig hook. Um, when I first tied this fly, I was using Pat Cohen's carp dub because it's got some of those little rubber legs in it and stuff. But I found some dubbing from Fly Tier's Dungeon. It's called Crap Dub, KRAP, and it's like Pat Cohen's carp dub on steroids. It's really got it's got sparkle in it. It comes in, I don't know, 14 or 15 different colors. Uh, and then I just tie a little chenille tail on the end, ultra chenille tail on the end. And we've had really great success with that.
But it's kind of like the profile of a carp hybrid, kind of that same profile.
Maybe a little bit. I wish I had one. I wish I had my bag in here with me. I don't on the top of my truck, but I'd pull one out and show it to you. But yeah, I don't have it with me. But you know, what's cool about it is you cast it out and it sinks down. And with those bead chain eyes are tied like right where the bend is in the jig hook. So it kind of sits butt end up. So this little piece of ultra chenille kind of is wiggling around back there. You know, it looks like a little worm. The hottest color that we have is one that I call Hot Wings. It's got fluorescent orange eyes and tail on it it's a darker body, like a dark olive body. Another one I call Key Lime, orange body with chartreuse eyes and tail. I got one that I tie in pink called Big League Chew. So nuggets, you know. Um, there's a tan one I tie as well. I forget what I call that one, but I got about 6 different colors in it. There's one I tie that's black with a hot red on it. I call that licorice. But when you have the contrast in the body color and the tail and the eyes, it seems to be a good trigger for. But you just got to hope that, you know, the last month or so, they've been really, really frustrating. It's been a tough carp bite. We kind of feel like we're on the cusp of that bust out like they do in September and October, where it's like one day Chase went, I think it was last October, and you know, it wasn't super hot. It wasn't really cool though, and it was just one of those days when they were eating. A couple days before they spawn, they'll really be turned on. When they spawn, they usually won't eat. You're very lucky to hook a fish if they're in spawning mode. How do you tell if they're in spawning mode? There'll be a big fish. That's the one you want to try to catch. That's the female. There'll be 2 or 3 smaller males just kind of cruising, bumping behind her.
AJ, tell us about, I didn't mention it earlier, but AJ is also a commercial fly tire and you're about to open a shop. So, tell
Yes,
us.
I will happily do a shameless plug for the No
Please,
Fly Company.
please do.
As many of you guys know, I used to work at No Wake Outfitters, and they moved locations and stuff, and I just kind of wanted to do my own thing. So a good friend of mine, we were talking one day, and he said, "You want to open a fly shop?" I said, "Are you kidding?" He said, "No." He says, "I'll back in it." He says, you know the community and stuff like that. But he says, I mean, a real fly shop. All we do is sell fly fishing." So we've kind of gone to town on that. We actually finished our build out yesterday. Got the flooring in. That was the last of it. So we're looking at maybe mid-October for grand opening. I don't think it'll be ready for the Rio Rumble. I wouldn't want to compete with that anyway. But So maybe the following weekend or the weekend after that, we'll be ready to open. But about a 1,500 square foot fly shop. It's on Jefferson Highway in Harahan, which is that Elmwood area around Clearview. It's about 2 or 3 blocks past Clearview as you're going what I call upriver toward River Ridge and stuff like that. Nice place. It's in the middle of a big strip mall. Nice big parking lot, plenty of parking in front. Going to carry a bunch of cool brands. Number one on the rod list is Winston, of course. Carry Winston, Douglas, TFO, Airlight. Just trying to get Scott, but they're struggling a little bit just to keep up with their regular dealers. So I don't know if that's going to happen right now. Bunch of different reels. We'll carry the Bowers that Winston reps will have. Bauer, Orvis, Lamson, Galvin, Airlight reels. So we're kind of excited about that. Cortland, TFO, and maybe Airflow lines. They're sending me some samples. Airflow had some problems for a while, but supposedly they've straightened all of that out. And then we'll have tons of fly tying material. Have a bunch of companies. We'll have Hairline, Wapsie, Nature Spirit, Montana Fly Company, Fulling Mill, Fanatics Fly Co. My buddy Chad Palmer over in Homa. We'll carry a bunch of his stuff. Plus, we'll pick some up along the way. But it's going to be we're going to build a big fly tying table. It's going to be like 12 foot by 4 foot. And we'll have once a month we'll have somebody come in, probably the second Thursday of the month, and teach a class. I was just over in Gulf Shores, Alabama last Thursday and taught a class for Sam Sumlin at Community Fly Supply, and it's great. The community just draws together for it. So you come, bring your tools. We'll have a couple of vices for those who may not have them. Come, bring your tools. It's free to tie. We supply the materials for the person who's gonna teach it. We'll do that. We'll bring a celebrity tyer in maybe once a month or so, tie on a Saturday, and they'll just come in and demo tie some of their flies. It's not a class or anything like that. But looking for it to be a community hub. There's not another dedicated fly shop between Houston, Texas, and Gulf Shores, Alabama, on a big arc up into Arkansas. So we're going to be it. We're going to be.
Are you gonna try to affiliate with any guides and run any trips out of it?
I have a few guides that want to collaborate with me. I have a few that want to collaborate that I won't collaborate with. But I have a few that have just sterling reputations, and I'd put anybody with them.
Is David going to guide for you?
I told him I would be happy to have him.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Does the
He's
shop
gonna-
name?
He's gonna tie for me. He's gonna tie some patterns for me, and I want to promote his guide service for him.
Does the shop have a name yet?
Yes, NOLA Fly Company.
No, okay, good.
And AJ, are you going to have a web storefront?
We're trying to get that going. It's
And that's great.
So
Yeah.
we would far prefer to order materials
Absolutely.
from you.
and, but you guys are always welcome to come on down and visit. I love seeing any of y'all that come on down and we're here to support the fly fishing community.
Need it.
We do.
No fly company. Yep, like it.
Well, AJ, appreciate it. Go ahead. I would think you can cut you off.
We're on Instagram. You can go there and see it there. We have a Facebook page. You can see our logo there. Really cool. I don't know if many of you guys know who Travis Luther is, but he's an artist and a fly fisherman from over in St. Augustine, Florida. And my partner and I, Travis had some things that he posted on his Instagram page. you had these rod racks for your house, and they held like 12 rods, and it was redfish and tarpon. So Brian said, "Man, wouldn't it be cool if we could get something like that?" So I messaged Travis, and he hit me back right away. He said, "I would love to build that for you." So our rod racks, he just posted it yesterday. Have been shipped to us. It's a redfish theme. We're going to be really focused on the local fishery. I'm not going to focus on Montana and Wyoming and Arkansas and stuff like that. Whenever somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I'm going to Montana, hook me up with some flies," I say, "Go to this fly shop in Montana. He's going to hook you up." But at the same time, folks that come down here, we want to be the resource for them when they want to go fishing for redfish and stuff like that. So we're excited. We're very excited.
We are too.
16 yards in fire.
Well, AJ, we thank you for your time tonight. That was really, really good.
Very informative.
Anybody have any more questions before we let AJ go eat supper?
No, I don't.
All
Well,
right, man.
I hope to see you guys at the Rio Grande Rumble. Come on down. It's a lot of fun. It's not a serious tournament. It's just about the community and getting together and enjoying yourself and hanging out with a bunch of like-minded folks that want to have a good time.
What's the date of it again, AJ?
I believe it's the first Saturday in October, so I think that's the 3rd. Look at my calendar quick and tell you.
That'd be the 3rd, yeah, I've got it in my calendar. Squirrel season over.
Yeah.
Yep, October 3rd.
He had rapid season.
I want to try it. Go do it. It's fun. I've done it. I've only done it once. I've just not been able to schedule that. And I'm on my way to Maine this year, so won't be able to make it, but.
Bill's always traveling the world when
No, my wife's dragging me around all over the place.
Oh,
Yeah, for me.
well, it's either him or Aaron.
Yeah. Oh, my God. So, all right, AJ, we appreciate it, man. We'll sign off and I'll give you a holler before we come down.
All right, sounds good. Great talking with you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Everybody,
AJ.
AJ, appreciate
Good
you,
night,
man.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right, Jim, you're in the dark.
Hammer.
All right. See you guys.
Yeah, I'm in the dark. We didn't turn the lights on back here. I'm a
Any
shadow.
last minute comment?
Where you elected to, huh?
Yeah, after this month, probably not.
Yeah. All right, Aaron, Anthony, see you guys. Y'all travel safe.
Have a good night.
All right, you too.